today's show, Luca Doncic hits an insane Luca Don flick shot that was absolutely wild. Scores 49 in the game. How did it get to that point? We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
How about 10 Mavericks, NBA champions? It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let us know in the comment section, what was your reaction to the Luka Don flick shot? Luka! Absolutely insane. Today's episode is brought to you by Dave. Download Dave today at dave.com/LockedOnNBA. You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. Check out Dave. We're talking about this game. The Dallas Mavericks get the win.
Let it
over
ride.
the Brooklyn Nets. Dorian Finney-Smith's homecoming ruined. Spencer Dinwiddie's homecoming ruined. Dennis Smith Jr. finally lost the game against the Dallas Mavericks. Oh my gosh, and we gotta let it ride.
Let it ride.
We got to let it ride for the Rangers, too. Oh, my gosh. Adolis Garcia, what a man. What a man, a god among men.
I mean, what a night in Dallas sports. It's just, I was like, can I keep on screaming throughout the whole night? It's like, just legends being made. Seager,
and
Garcia.
Joining me, as always and forever, my co-host, contributor to Studio 41 now, the Doncic, the Luka Magic Man, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
I just want to say my coworker had a pretty good night. Luka had a pretty good night, and
your checks are both signed by the same individual, and he had a great night as well.
Oh my gosh, dude! I mean, just going from the end of the Mavs game, Luka putting up 49. If you're Dallas sports fan, if you're not a Dallas sports fan and you don't understand the full grasp of it, of just how excited and the game goes to the bottom of the ninth for Rangers, and Seager and Garcia wins it, and just, I mean, Cowboys are probably going to ruin the trifecta, but
whoa,
Luka Magic home opener, just what he did in the fourth quarter there was out of this world.
There's a million things to talk about from this game. We'll talk about Dereck Lively didn't play a ton. Mavericks went smaller, changed it up. We'll talk about Dorian Finney-Smith's homecoming and tribute and all that. Spencer Dinwiddie going off. We'll talk about what the Mavericks did. Some mistakes the Mavericks made. Kyrie Irving not really going off this time. Tim Hardaway taking some weird shots. We'll talk about all that. Let's start with the one, the only Luka Doncic. I mean, just insane.
I need a recovery beer.
He
played mate. Sorry.
He played so insane. 49 points, 10 boards, 7 assists, 0 turnovers. Just an absolutely insane game. His three-point shooting, honestly, he hit 9 threes. Tim had 3 threes. Everybody else that hit one only had 1. Like the Mavericks only hit 3 other threes outside of that. That was the only thing keeping them in the game for the most part. And then he hits that 3, the bank shot out of a double team to basically seal the game.
That I'm pretty sure this career high 3-pointers made for Luka in a game. Him hitting 9 of 14. He was 16 of 25 from the field in this game. That's 64%. Pretty dang good. He puts up 49 points, and he
9 is his most.
He puts up 49 points, and he only took 10 free throws in this game. It feels like when somebody gets close to a 50 burger there, that he's or you see players shoot like 18, 22 free throws, something like that. He only shot 10, and arguably the most impressive stat of all tonight for him was he had 0 turnovers. It's just, I mean, you put up 49, 10, and 7 on 16 of 25 shooting, hit 9 threes, and you have 0 turnovers. I mean, you're telling everybody like, hey, if you didn't think I was one of the best players in the whole world, then here you go, right here.
Like he said the other night against the Spurs with that shot over Wembanyama. I'm here. Was what he kept saying.
I thought he said, I'm him. Like, I'm him.
He said it in Slovenian, so it wouldn't have mattered either way. Luka is just the 8th player ever to have 3 games all time with 49 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. So he's done it 3 times. Can you guess the other players, Isaac Harris?
How many?
He's just the 8th player, so there's 7 other players.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I guess LeBron.
Nope.
Magic
Johnson. Oh, no.
The Big O.
Oscar Robertson. No.
Westbrook
did it 4 times. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, James Harden, Elgin Baylor did it 7 times. And Larry Bird. That's 49 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists in there. Absolutely insane. Luka's the only player to ever do it with 0 assists.
Turnovers, you mean?
0 turnovers. Sorry. 0 assists to the other team. Yeah, 0 turnovers for Luka. There were times in this game when I looked at Luka and I could tell that there's 2 things with Luka. One of them, I could tell he wanted to score on Dorian and he wanted to score on Dinwiddie. Like, he went out of his way to try and score on those guys, to have fun, to score on them, to get back at his, to have fun with his friends, basically, is what it felt like at times. And I felt like he was going out of his way to do that. The other thing is we saw him get into it with the refs a little bit in that, what was it, the 3rd quarter?
A little bit.
I noticed him like stop getting back on defense as often, and it's something that we want him to be to take this next step. But it was the 2nd quarter. The beginning, he stopped in the middle of a transition possession. At 9 minutes, he posted up, didn't get a foul. He stayed back to complain. A minute later, he was late to get back again, and then he got taken out. But you saw that creep up again, and I was curious, like, all right, well, here it is. He's getting challenged. He wasn't getting the body calls. Every time he would drive to the rim, he wanted to get those body calls, and he wasn't. And he got one in the 3rd quarter, and he was like, oh, finally. But on the replay, you saw Dennis Smith Jr. hit him on the elbow. And I was like, oh, they called that. They're not calling these body fouls. So when Luka doesn't get the calls that he wants, that's when you start seeing it set in. And I'm curious, all right, where's this going to go, and how much is this going to affect the team?
I was thoroughly just blown away that he didn't get attacked. Like, he was asking so much for attack in this game, and it felt like every ref in here, which Tyler Ford, little history with Luka, Josh Tiven loves to hand out some techs and be the center of attention sometimes, but it felt like they all told him multiple times, enough, like, hold the hands up, saying go back to the bench there. So I'm really surprised that he didn't get attack, but he didn't, and he played an insanely efficient game too. And some of his shot attempts in the first half, I thought he was forcing it a little bit. It's like, all right, this is time after time after time that it's kind of like Luka ball, and that's the times kind of like middle of the game. You're like, all right, let's try to get some other people going and all of that, because we all don't mind it at the end of the game. Like, that's when Luka's going to have the ball. Luka's going to do his thing. But then, I mean, it comes to the 4th quarter, and it felt like the game was ugly at times on both sides. And these are the type of games that when you have a top 5 player, when you're doing the over-unders at the beginning of the year, you're predicting standings and all this stuff, you're going to have the ugly nights to where it feels like nothing else is looking good. Nobody else has got it going. And when you have a top 5 player, this is what happens. You have a guy who can carry you and put up 50 and hit 9 3-pointers.
Those things did not happen last year, but they are gonna happen this year. Like, it's gonna course correct it. It's gonna come back to it. Yeah, he was playing Luka ball. I wonder, Lively didn't play a ton in this game. He finished with 16 minutes. He started this game, finished with about 17 minutes, only played 3 minutes in the second half. And I wonder if, some of the ugly offense stuff, they just don't have the same kind of options when Maxey is in than when it's Lively, right? You can't run the same kind of pick and roll stuff. And then all of a sudden it's just a pick and pop. So then it's just Luka kind of ISO ball, or Luka trying to get a mismatch by a Tim Hardaway screen or a Kyrie screen. Like, the lack of creativity in the offense really does like shine bright when you take away one of your big options, right? I did shine bright like a diamond. I did this show yesterday and I went through all the clutch, all the clutch possessions from the Spurs game. And I was like, oh, they varied it. They had Lively screens. They had Tim Hardaway screens, Kyrie screens. They had a bunch of just different stuff that they tried to bake into it. And then all of a sudden you take a couple of those options off the table. Then it's just Luka on that. So coming up, let's talk about how it got there. Why was it such an ugly game? We'll talk about some of the other players as well. Kyrie not being as aggressive. Tim Hardaway Jr. taking terrible shots. Why did the Mavericks not play Dereck Lively? I think we've got an answer. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Dave. Dave is something that could definitely help you if you've ever been in a stuck position. You're like, I need some cash. I need something right now. I need to pay a parking ticket. I need to pay a vet bill. I need to pay, the car service, like your engine light comes on in your car, or your tire busts or something. You need some extra cash. Dave is a banking app that helps level the financial playing field. When you download Dave, you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. It's part of Dave's extra cash account. Advance the money you need, no interest, and then settle up later. So you can get extra cash on groceries, fill your tank, all that kind of stuff. You can even build credit when you settle up on time. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to make their finances easier. So if you're in a pinch, get the help you need by downloading Dave. Download Dave today at dave.com/LockedOnNBA. That's dave.com/LockedOnNBA. You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. Download the Dave app or go to dave.com/LockedOnNBA. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal eligibility criteria and instant transfer fees apply. Banking services provided by Evolve, member FDIC. Also, want to tell you about Jase Medical. Jase has the Jase case that has 5 antibiotics that help with bacterial infections, all kinds of things. You want this for your peace of mind. If you're traveling, if you're going somewhere, imagine you ran into some kind of medical situation where you couldn't get the medication you need. If you have this in your back pocket, all of a sudden you have those in your possession to be able to help yourself, to help your family, whoever. Jase now offers customization for your Jase case with dozens of add-on medications. Choose the medication to fit you or your family's needs, and they're backed by physicians so that you know that you're taken care of. Right now, go to Jase Medical, enter the code LOCKEDON, and get $20 off a discount code on your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON at JASEmedical.com. Again, that's JaseMedical.com. Enter the promo code LOCKEDON. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad. If you want to support the show, get texts from me, get text alerts on Mavs rumors. You can watch film with me after this. I'll probably go do a Mavericks watch back, where I'll go watch back. I'll probably watch the fourth quarter because I want to see how insane that shot was again and watch that. So I'll watch the fourth quarter. I'll do a film breakdown. I'll point out some stuff. So subscribe to our subtext. Text the number 214-643-8637 or click the link in the description. Really help it. And I'm trying to catch the Locked On Bills guy. It's really what I'm trying to do in subs. We're like 100 away. I really want to catch him.
Oh, let's go.
All right, Isaac.
Bills suck.
Yeah. Buffalo. Come on. This is Dallas. This is Dallas. Dallas Mavericks win 125-120. Why were the Dallas Mavericks in this? Why was this such a close game for so long?
Gosh, I mean, there's a lot of ways to say this. I mean, for Brooklyn, I mean, they just hit a million threes. I mean, 21 threes in this game. They shot right around that 50% mark for most of the game. And I don't really like their team. I love some of the guys on it, but it's just the makeup of their team is so weird. They're obviously missing some guys, but it's just a kind of a weird combo of guys. And it's like, all right, what's going to be the game plan kind of for Dallas and Brooklyn in this game? Because they start Ben Simmons kind of at the center spot.
They did start him at center. Nick Claxton wasn't playing, and they're like, hey, Simmons is going to take the tip ball, and he's going to be our 5 to set the screens and do all that.
Yeah, so it was basically just a battle of like 5 out for a lot of the night. And, we'll talk about the Lively versus Dwight stuff because Dallas, opted to play Dwight decent amount in this game. But that was kind of like their approach. And it's like, hey, let's switch. They do have a lot of bodies to throw at Luka, Mikal Bridges, Ben Simmons, when he's, been healthy in the past, which feels like it's been forever, has played Luka, decently well.
Yeah, he did.
But it's just crazy once again that you look at a team like Brooklyn and you say, man, if you could try to design a team or try to design a roster of players to that could guard Luka, or to have bodies that you could guard Luka, it would be somebody like Brooklyn and Ben Simmons, Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith. My daughter just woke up from her from sleeping, and it would be that type. And Luka puts up 49 points and is that efficient. And it's almost like a challenge for Luka. He's like, all right, I know you got guys to throw at me. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna put up the stat line.
And he did too. And he almost had to do it, because it felt like one of those Clippers games, right? Where the Clippers had a bunch of wings they could throw at him and a bunch of different options. And Luka was like, all right, they're going to take away some of my passing. They're going to take away some of the other guys, and they're just going to try me one-on-one. They didn't really double him all that much till the end, until some of the final shots that he was taking. And so they didn't make everybody else beat him. They're like, let's just let Luka beat us. And then he did. I mean,
yeah,
he did pretty much. If I look at this game, though, there's a couple of stats stand out to me. The Mavericks, the Nets hit 6 more threes than the Mavericks. You mentioned that earlier. That's a huge thing that stood out. And then the Mavericks hit a ton more free throws. They were 22 out of 28 on their free throws. The Nets only had 10 free throw attempts. Luka almost beat them in the amount of free throw attempts they took. They were 9 of 10. And then the Mavericks scored 50 points in the paint. Nets only scored 42 points in the paint. So the Mavericks took care of the paint, which is interesting. They just didn't have a lot of guys that penetrate and get to the rim. They obviously didn't have many rebounders and didn't have many guys that were, in the paint trying to score that way. They had Ben Simmons every once in a while, but all right. They played the 5 out, like you said. They started Ben Simmons and Dorian as their 2 bigs, so they're playing wings there. And the Mavericks started Dereck Lively. They went there. He started, and it seemed to be going pretty well. He was getting some, pick and roll stuff. He was finishing, got a couple of rebounds, and then we kind of only saw him 3 minutes the rest of the game. Like, he started the second half, and we only saw him the beginning. They decided to go with Maxey for 26 minutes, Dwight Powell for about 13 minutes, which is probably the rest of the minutes Lively would have played. They never went with 2 bigs ever, or at least they only did for a little bit. And they wanted to go with more spacing. They wanted to go with more switchability. And I think they just wanted to be switchier. Like, I feel like that's really what they decided to be, is they wanted to be switchier on some of these guys. They struggled on some of these on switches. Mm-hmm. I think they struggled to contain Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas had 30 points. That dude is a scorer, man. 12 of 19 from the field. Only hit 1 3 and scored 30 points. Like, when does that happen besides DeMar DeRozan in the NBA anymore? Barely ever happens. They really struggled to contain on switches. And even when they went smaller, they struggled to contain on these switches.
Yeah. I think that's the only reason out there for them to play Dwight over him, because besides that, I really didn't understand it. Like, no, I understood them throwing him in there for a few minutes because it's Dwight. They trust him. I didn't expect him to always get DNP-CDs the rest of the season. But when they kept him in there in the second half and they never brought Lively back, that's when I was kind of confused. And honestly, the switching is the only thing that you're I guess, but even that, I don't you can't convince me that Dwight is that much better of a switcher than Dereck Lively. So honestly, I didn't understand. I mean, I know Dwight hit that corner 3 and it's all right, cool. That was a cool moment. I was happy for him, but I didn't think there was
from the field.
I didn't think there was a reason not to bring Lively back in the game.
Okay, so I said yesterday, you can call BS on me on this because I was by myself, but I said yesterday, Kid's reason for not starting Lively in the first game was because of all the crazy energy, and he wanted to kind of save him and not get him pick up a couple of early fouls in that game. And so he decided to come back, and I was like, all right, that's either a genius excuse or a genius reason, because it worked out really well. This one, though, his reason at the end was that Lively had never seen switch a small team. He hadn't seen a small team in the NBA yet. And I was like, I'm not really buying that, because you'd think that the Mavericks would be able to take advantage of the size with the pick and roll. Like if they kept going to it, Lively should have been able to get more lobs at the rim or stuff at the rim. There's just a couple passes that were bad to him, or he wasn't ready. There's a couple things here and there, but you'd think they would have turned that into a big strength, because they've needed this kind of center to get these rebounds, to get the lobs, to take advantage of size. and yet they just went completely away from it and decided to play the same game that the Nets were playing.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch some of his minutes in the first half because it's like it'd be different if you had like another option that was like so much better and that you're like, hey, this works so much, but it took a Luka, 14-point fourth quarter there for him to pull away. And so, yeah, I never fully understood Lively not playing more in this game.
And they didn't, it wasn't necessarily that they went to Maxey and like Dwight over him. They picked Tim over him basically. Right? Because Tim played 30 minutes in this game off the bench.
Yeah.
And they decided to go small. And so if you're going to go small, then all of a sudden you get another player to come in. And the other player was Tim. And they decided to play Tim a bunch. And Tim in the first half was pretty good. We've had 2 good first half Tims in these 2 games where he's hitting shots. First half in this one, he had 10 points. It's 4 of 6 from the field, hit a 3, went to the free throw line. And then the second half, I mean, he played 19 minutes. He played the most out of anybody on the Mavericks. He played 19 and a half minutes. He was 2 of 11 from the field, hit 2 threes, which is good. He was a plus 12, which doesn't compute in my brain. And that's one of the reasons why like single game plus minus doesn't matter. Because I thought he made some terrible decisions, especially on shots, but just like some weird stuff.
Him and Cam Thomas are Spider-Man meme. I mean, Cam Thomas gets inspired by Tim Hardaway. He's like, that is my idol right there.
That shot selection is for me.
Yeah, just ultimate green light.
I just don't. I just didn't get it. I didn't get the decision to go with Tim for that long. And
sorry, I thought you had another ad break.
No.
I forgot it was a weekend pod, so I was like, all right, well, no,
weekend show, only one break this time.
We've never done a.
You want to make one up?
This pod is brought to you by Bedtime Toddlers. You never know.
Your daughter was making a face at you. I don't think she liked your take earlier. I thought it.
If y'all are not watching on YouTube and you're just listening in your car, my daughter's been with me the past, 10 minutes of this pod, just sitting with me. My wife's asleep. Everybody's asleep in my house, except for my little one.
Yeah, I just don't get the decision. It ended up well, but Luka had to bail them out at the end. I just thought that you have this strength that you've been trying to build, and the Nets don't have any size. And like, yeah, like I felt like they played scared with it, right? Like let's go switchier. Let's play to their game. And you don't want to play to their game. You want to play the bigger game that now you have this guy. You haven't had this in the past, and now you do.
And we haven't had like fully efficient Kyrie Irving yet either. Like,
no,
it still feels like he's front rimming, some of the mid-range stuff. He just hasn't been fully in his groove. I mean, he finished with 17 in this game, but still, I mean, Mavs are 2-0. There's some rotation stuff that I have questions about. I have big questions about Derrick Jones's minutes. I think some of that correlates with Josh and how they're trying to spare Josh's minutes and combos with that. I didn't understand, the Lively stuff, tonight, the leash for Tim is just wild, but you also got to ask yourself sometimes, like, they got to generate offense somewhere. But some of the defensive stuff, like even there was that 3 there in the fourth, tonight's where like Tim's just standing on the wing. They just come down, throw it over to Lonnie Walker, and he's just not even like defending.
Oh, the one where he's facing the other way.
Yeah.
And he just was just completely lost who his man was. Yeah. There's when I went over to the first quarter on Subtext, I did a watch back of and I went back and watched the first quarter again. And then I talked about it on the podcast yesterday. And I went back and I documented like every single possession where the Spurs scored and what happened. There was 19 of them in the first quarter, and 6 of them were just defensive mistakes. I bet if I went back and watched this game, I bet it would be like half. I bet it'd be half would just be weird defensive mistakes, bad decisions where you're like going under screens multiple times, and like it was just weird stuff with this. Not staying with your man. They needed to contain the point of attack. Like that was a big problem with Cam Thomas, and they just couldn't do it. Ben Simmons set good screens, and he was able to get some space.
I'm so far out on him, man. I was just sitting there I was up in the press box saying like, who's better? Like, who would you rather have? And I was saying like this player or this player. Like, I would much rather have Nick Claxton than Ben Simmons.
Did one of your players that you mentioned almost get a triple-double tonight? Because Ben Simmons did.
Yeah, no. I watched this dude warm up for so long, and I was just fascinated by his release. I've never seen somebody. I watched him shoot the basketball so many dang times today before the game. I've never seen somebody put a spin on the ball from that angle, and I just don't get it.
It spins like not sideways, not like side to side. It spins like diagonally.
It's like diagonal, but it's like it doesn't make sense how it. I don't know. I mean, it makes sense for his like shooting percentages, but
you know what Ben Simmons is now though?
What?
He is short Jokic that can't shoot. Like that's honestly how he plays.
That's a disgrace to Jokic.
I mean, but he plays that kind of style of like, I'm a center. He plays like a center. I'm going to grab rebounds. I'm going to make good passes. And I'm just going to, that he can't score around the rim that much, but the only times he tries are like those weird post-ups that he does where he tries the little like one-handed like flick shot.
Yeah. Well, Spencer Dinwiddie drained.
Turn back into Mavs Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah. One, I do want to say this. I've seen some backlash on the internet land of why tribute video for him. You know, there was a little mini tribute video for him in I think first or second quarter. It was just in a timeout or something. Nothing huge, but we've only been to the conference finals so many times, guys. And he was a main contributor to that run, and he had some fun moments in his short stint with the buzzer beaters, the dunk over Rudy. He had that 30-pointer 30-point game in a game 7 for them. So like this is, I mean, yes, he doesn't have the longevity as some of the other guys, but for a key factor into a conference final run when you don't have very many conference finals in your history, it was worth it. Yeah.
5. They have 5. He was a main part of one of the 5 conference finals runs they've ever been on. I don't think you have to tell this audience. I don't think you have to tell anybody listening that why
I feel like there's some people out there might. Why?
There was one reporter from like Kansas or something that was getting dunked on left and right. I dunked on him on Twitter of like, why is Dorian Finney-Smith getting a tribute video? Like he's just not worth it to have a tribute video. And I was like,
come on!
I was like, you just don't understand the fan base at all. You're just talking out your.
Go eat some corn.
I can't say ass with your daughter right there, can I?
Yeah, she can't hear you.
Okay, ass.
I think she's asleep. I don't want to move.
I was gonna say you wanted her to go to sleep, just not there.
Just keep the pod going. It's gonna be like an hour long pod.
This is like us driving around the block now.
Yeah.
we have to keep it going. Also, we should mention it's your last pod. Tomorrow we'll do the live stream. So if the pod never ends, you never leave. So I have 2 incentives now to keep the pod going for as long as possible.
That's pretty true. I did have a lot of people come up to me at the game tonight. Thank you so much. And decent amount of them, I was like, hey, I'm going to be on tonight. And they're like, what? No, yeah. So they're excited. So,
yeah, tomorrow, check the YouTube channel. I think it'll be about 2:00. We've got a live stream. We'll be together and we'll just talk about fun times. We'll just come with memories and things like that. And we'll answer questions and do all that kind of fun stuff tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I do want to say, our shout out to Dorian.
Yeah.
So good to see him in the place and, watch him warm up and stuff. And there's not too many people for us at least that I would say that, hey, players that you would say you befriended or you got to know on like a personal level. There's different Mavs that's come through or stayed with the team for a few years that, especially pre-COVID, now it's a little harder to do that we built some relationships with, and Dorian's one of those guys. But you also like, I'm also a nobody. So I'm like, all right, what do I do now? Like when he comes out, do I go for it? Do I go for the, like, dab it up? Like, is he going to like, all right, is he too cool for it? Is he going to like still recognize me? Whatever it is. And I'm like, I'm going to look so stupid. And so he's like getting his shots up and he finishes his routine and then we lock eyes and then he comes over and I was like, oh, and we dab up and talk about kids or whatever. So anyway,
did he talk about his horse? I want to know what his horse is doing.
That was very far down the list of what I was going to ask him about.
That's the difference between you and me. It would be very high on the list of things that I would want to ask Dorian Finney-Smith.
I was like 10 feet over from a very long conversation. I mean, I'm talking like 45 minutes of Nico and Sean Marks, GM of the Nets, Nico Harrison together.
Now we've got this Rashawn Holmes contract, and you've got Dorian Finney-Smith. We would like Dorian Finney-Smith back. Their contracts match. We've got a couple second-round picks. How about one of them?
Sean's like, so let's talk about Kyrie.
How's that going for you? How about the three that Doe hit with like 3.5 minutes left, right in front of the Nets bench, like right in Luka's face?
Yeah,
to extend the lead. That was a huge moment.
I mean, Luka gets him back with the one-handed sling flick shot.
He got the
fling
whole
shot heard round the world.
The whole borough of Brooklyn, he got him back. Like insane. I still cannot believe he hit that shot. I keep thinking about it and replaying it in my head. From where I was sitting, I sit in section 123. It's like in the corner. So I'm on the same side as where he hit the shot, but the opposite corner. And I just watching it, I could see him get doubled. And we haven't talked about this part about it. Jason Kidd tried to call a timeout.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Kidd tried to call a timeout, and they didn't hear it because it was so loud in that arena. Like everyone was standing up. Everyone was loud. They were rowdy, proud, and loud. And Luka just flicks that shot up, he was pinned to the sideline, double teamed, and just throws it up, and he banked it. And Kidd tried to call a timeout in the middle of it, and he didn't get it off. And so it's crazy.
And now the Mavs are 2-0. Let's do this.
2-0 on the skin of their teeth. 2 clutch games again. So so much for the Mavs are going to play less clutch games this year. Yeah, they figured out some things. They've got a bunch more questions, I think. The rotation doesn't really make a ton of sense to me. Like they started Lively and Jones today, and they only played like 30 minutes combined. That just doesn't really make a ton of sense. They have 2.
Can we put Lively back to the bench if it means he plays 30 minutes?
Yeah, right. They have 2 spot starters, basically, which is just strange to me. But Kidd said the first 10 games are going to be experimentation. So I'm not surprised by it, but I don't like that it's all over the place. Exum got 4 minutes. I thought Exum was fine in his minutes, and he got 4 minutes.
I had a friend text me like, hey, I'm making a note that we're already changing the starting lineup in game 2. It's like,
well, he said that they were going to, so that I'm not surprised by that. They changed the starting lineup every preseason game too. There you go. All right, come back tomorrow. Isaac will do the in remembrance pod as he goes away.
2 p.m. Central Time.
Yeah, we'll do that on the YouTube channel, and we'll post the audio to the podcast feed as well. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out. Peace out.
Boom.